Hi, Ashley. Thanks for joining us today to help us discuss approaches to potty training with our kiddos who are affected by creatine deficiencies. We're excited to learn from you, and I'm going to turn the time over to you.
Thank you very much. It's happy to be here. I have been potty training for almost 25 years. So I have seen it all and done it all at this point. So nothing, any questions that you may have, it's not going to be a surprise to me, most likely. I've seen it all. So I want to start out by uh, um, pointing out the most important aspect of potty training, and that's giving our kids the motivation to do it. That is going to get our children potty trained. We have to give them a reason to do it. And that is by using positive reinforcement effectively. And in order to do that, you have to make sure that you in advance let the child know exactly what you expect of them and what they get as a result. So we'll just use the instance of sitting on the potty. Let's say your child has never sat on the potty before, then you can start there. If you sit on the potty, then you can have a Skittle. If you sit on the potty, then you can have your iPad. Whatever your child is motivated by is what you want to use for potty training. Keep in mind, whatever you decide to use for potty training, you can't use it any other time. So, in order for it to remain effective, it needs to be only used for potty training for the time being until the new behavior is set. Um, it's also important that you can give it to the child every single time he or she has a success. So, as every single time the child sits on the potty, he needs to get that reward. And that's in the beginning until they are consistently doing it. So, once the child's consistently sitting on the potty, then you can up the ante and reward the child for peeing in the potty or pooping in the potty or self-initiating and then peeing in the potty. So wherever you are and wherever you need to be, that's how you determine what to use the reinforcer or when to use the reinforcers. Also make sure that you are very clear as to why the child is getting the reward. Oh, wow, look at that. You went pee in the potty. Now you can have your iPad, or now you can have your treasure box, or now you can go swing. Again, you want to use something that is super motivating for the child. Keep the phrase, what would the child climb a mountain to get? That's my key phrase. And that is going to be how you will determine what to use for potty training. If they just kind of like it, or if sometimes they like it, but they wouldn't climb a mountain to get it, then it probably isn't going to be motivating enough for potty training. So, when thinking about rewards, also think outside the box. It doesn't have to be a food item or a sticker or the typical M&Ms. It can be anything and everything. Some of my favorite examples are a spoonful of frosting. You would never give your child a bowl full of frosting for a snack, but a spoon, if they always lick the frosting off of a cupcake, then consider using frosting as a reward every time they pee in the potty. If there's a behavior that you have tried really hard to extinguish, um, but they still want to do it, then think about bringing that back or allowing that as a reward. Obviously not an aggressive or a dangerous behavior, but something like, I had one little boy who loved jumping on his parents' bed naked while watching The Wiggles. That was a little 4-year-old boy. That's what he loved to do. So that's what he did every single time he peed in the potty. I like to recommend whatever the chosen rewards are, and having between 5 and 10 different items is usually a good idea so that your child doesn't have an excuse to not be successful because of the lack of variety. So having 5 to 10 different items, put them in a clear box with a lid that latches on, And that way they can see what's in the box. They can carry the box around. They can even use the box as a way to communicate the need to go. They can bring you the box, for instance, as a way to tell you that they want to go to the potty. Keep that box within view at all times as a visual reminder, and then it can follow them to the bathroom so that it's right there, ready and waiting for them when they do have success. Any questions on the use of reinforcement, positive reinforcement?
So with that example of the stuff in the clear box and the frosting,
Mm-hmm.
how do you do that?
Put the container of the frosting in the box and a
Okay.
spoon.
Okay.
I had one little kid that loved the squirty frosting, so I would just squirt it in her mouth every time. So that that worked too. If it's
Yeah.
ice cream or something that can't live in the box, then put a picture of the box or put an empty ice cream box.
Uh-huh.
So, get creative. I don't necessarily like just a picture of it or a generic picture of it, like a PEX picture. I really
Mhm.
like a photograph of the item, or the box that the item comes in. If it's something like the swing, then you could use a photograph of their particular swing. But try to be as specific as possible so that they know exactly what to expect.
So how do you feel? I think like, with our typical kiddos, this would be really easy to implement.
Hmm.
And that you have experience actually working with some of our families that have kiddos with CTD.
Right.
So I know this is your background. How does this all change and um, how do we customize this even more for kiddos who have limited expressive language
Right.
and some developmental delays in general?
Right. So everything that I'm going to tell you works for kids who are neurotypical and who are neurodivergent and who have delays, you know, across the gamut. Everything that I tell you is proven through research to work with every type of kid. I mean, you may have to tweak it a little bit here and there, but it's all my background is in ABA. I was clinically trained at the Emory Autism Center, and they developed this potty training program. And way back in the early 2000s is when I worked for them, and that's when I was clinically trained. So everything that I'm talking to you about is based in their research and proven to work through that. So with and we'll get into this on when we talk about the actual process of potty training. Even with typically developing kids, you can't always show them a box of treats and they're going to immediately and go and sit on the potty, or they're immediately going to go and pee in the potty. That's why you want to give them many opportunities to practice the behavior, and the reward is ready and waiting for them so that when the behavior happens, you can have the reward ready for them so that they can pair exactly what they did with that reward. And that will just teach them, oh, so I have to do this to get that, to get what I want. And that's how, no matter the child, is going to learn. And it's through many opportunities of practicing to sit on the potty and then peeing in the potty. And so in the beginning, the pee in the potty is going to happen probably by accident, because the child can't hold it anymore, or because they just happen to be sitting there when they need to pee. And that's okay. That's pretty typical. And so that's why you want the reward there. So as soon as that pee goes into the potty, you can draw attention to it. Oh, look at that. You're going pee in the potty. Here, now you can have, a treat from your box, or you can go on your swing, or whatever it may be that they're motivated by. Um, and one more thought. Did I answer all those questions, or did you have another?
I think so. I'm afraid I'm going to start asking you stuff you're going to cover, but and so you can just not answer this if you're going to get into it, but like,
Yep.
what are for an individual with developmental difficulties and delays and all that, what are the signs of readiness? Or do you believe in that? Are you like, you got to wait till they're ready?
No, I
And
don't. I do not agree with waiting until they're ready,
okay.
because diapers are made so well that kids don't have a reason to potty train anymore. Even kids who have no developmental delays whatsoever, they're happy to use the diaper or the pull up because they don't have to stop and stop what they're doing. They can keep playing, they can keep going about their business. So most kids don't show the signs of readiness. I mean, yes, they'll show interest in the potty. They'll want to see you going potty. They even might maybe want to sit on the potty. But as far as the child being ready, there are some signs, but many kids won't ever say or indicate that they're ready, and that's okay. You can still potty train them. I do recommend that the child can pull their pants up and down on their own if they choose to. That's helpful. But for a child who has limited mobility or is unbalanced and can't has a difficult time with balance, it's completely okay if they can't do it independently. Um, the fact that if they can, when they choose to, that's the important part. But if not, then keep in mind, if your child has limited mobility or is unsteady on their feet, you're never going to send them into the bathroom on their own. You're just not. So
Mhm.
it's okay if they can't pull their pants down or up on their own either, because you're always going to be there with them. So you can help them. But I do recommend that you at least try to get them involved in the pulling the pants up and down process. Put their thumbs in the waistband, have them grasp it, and then you can stand behind them, do the same thing with your, grasping the waistband and pulling down together. And then the same thing, pulling up together, so that they can learn what the motion feels like to do that part. And again, it's not a deal breaker if they can't, but if they can do it, then that's a sign of readiness that they're ready to move on to the next step. You can also determine that a child is physically ready if you go to change their diaper and sometimes they're dry or they stay dry overnight. Those are two really good indicators that they're holding their urine for normal amounts of time, a couple of hours during the day and a full overnight. That's a great indicator that their body is ready for it, even if they don't seem to have any interest in the potty. But they certainly don't have to have interest in the potty to start the process. It's more important that the caregiver is ready to start the process and ready to commit to the process, because you really have to be consistent for our kids with special needs to become trained. If you're starting and stopping, or if the child is in pull-ups at school and underwear at home and you're switching back and forth between the two, that can confuse everyone, the child and the caregiver and the teacher, because they may forget which one the child is wearing. The child may forget which one they can pee in and which one they can't. So it's ideal that the parent is ready to really commit. And with that, we can move on to what an actual day in the life of potty training looks like, unless you had a question.
Do you recommend, like, on the topic of going back to school and reinforcing there, do you usually recommend to parents that they kind of carve out a week or something to really reinforce this and learn it before you send them off on a bus or take them off to school, or any
I mean, that's
consideration?
that's ideal, but it's not usually realistic for parents to stay home and work on potty training with them for an entire week. And that's where I've come in and work with your families in the past, is that's what I do. I come into their home, I work with them for 6 or 7 hours every day, and we only do potty training. And because of that, because the focus of their life for a time period between 2 and 5 days, sometimes a little bit longer, it can be done quickly. If you're a parent who has other children and a job and yeah, meal prep. It's really difficult to be able to do that full-time potty training on your own, even if you take the week off, even if you take them out of school for a week. So I'm going to um, talk you through how to do regular potty training where you can kind of work it into your schedule so that you don't have to take the time off. And I can't tell you how many times I've come in to work with families whose parents have done this, or not done what I've suggested, but have taken weeks off at a time, and their child still isn't trained. It's hard as a parent, and I have my own 3 kids. My son was very easy to potty train. My 2 girls were 2 of the hardest kids I've ever potty trained. And at that point, I had already been training other people's children for 10 years. So it's not like I didn't know what I was doing. It can just be really difficult. The parent child dynamic. Oftentimes, when there's a child that is refusing to potty train, that dynamic, it's become a power struggle, and you have to remove the parent from the picture, unfortunately. So, but not to say that the parent can't do it. You certainly can. um, a few tips before you start potty training with your child. You want to, to kind of get them ready. You want to have them practice pulling their pants up and down. Again, that's if they have that capability. You want to give them the opportunity to sit on the potty at every diaper change, and be prepared with rewards. And in the beginning, you can reward them just for sitting on the potty. I like to recommend having a box of special books, toys, activities, things for them to do while they're sitting on the potty. If take a child from their playroom and you expect them to go sit on the potty where there's nothing to do, you're going to get some resistance. So make it a fun place for them to be. If they like to do Play-Doh and paint and arts and crafts, or they like to drive trucks, have those things in the bathroom for them to play with too while they're sitting potty. Alternatively, they don't have to be in the bathroom. If you are using a little training potty and that's what they prefer, it's okay to put it in the kitchen or the playroom or the living room. It doesn't have to stay in the bathroom. If your child is happier sitting on the potty in the playroom, then let them do that. The goal is to keep them happy and content while they're sitting on the potty, so they want to sit there. The goal is to get them to sit for up to 10 minutes, so you can slowly increase that time. And giving them things to do will encourage them to sit longer. And sometimes I even have to pry the kids off the potty because they don't they don't want to get up. They're perfectly happy and content just sitting on the potty. But the longer they sit, the more opportunities they sit, the greater the chance that they're going to happen to pee. And in the beginning, that's just how it works. You have to just kind of catch them at the right time. And sometimes you may already know that 15 minutes after they drink, a juice box, they always pee. So you can go ahead and time it that 15 minutes or like 13 minutes after their juice box, go ahead and have them sit on the potty so that they're already on the potty when the urge comes. Um, I had a question here and I need to figure out how I can find it.
Oh, I can
Unless you
quote it.
can see it.
Yeah, what is your advice, Ashley, when there are physical impacts related to a metabolic disease, such as the condition causing constipation? There
Hmm.
is because of low muscle tone,
Hmm.
internal and external. This snowballs into bowel distension and loss of sensory input. What
Right.
is,
Okay. We're going to talk about bowel training in a little bit, because many times pee training happens before the poop training. So, what I'm uh, talking about when it comes to daytime training, the focus is on pee training because we can really push that with liquids and multiple opportunities, and children pee multiple times per day. Sometimes the bowel training comes with that. Sometimes it doesn't, and you have to do a separate bowel training. So we'll talk about that and all things bowel next, once we get through what regular daytime training. So again, you're ready to commit. Your child, whether or not they're showing signs, you're ready to really start potty training and stick with it. You want to have them wear underwear full time, which is scary, but
Mhm.
it's important because, again, if they're wearing diapers or pull ups, they have no reason to use the potty, especially our kids with special needs. It just, they need that extra motivation, and not wearing a diaper or a pull up gives them more motivation. You can use a diaper or a pull up over the underwear when you're taking car trips, when you're leaving the house, when you're going to be away from a bathroom that's accessible for a bit of time. The reason for that is so that when the child does wet, they still feel it. The underwear gets wet, but you have the protection of the diaper or the pull up over it. Contrary to what the commercial says, pull ups do not help with potty training, unfortunately. Yes, it simulates the up and down movement that you have with underwear, but as far as the feeling, they're they don't work. So, and they're more expensive and they don't work as well. So honestly, I recommend diapers if you're going to put it over the underwear. And we'll also talk about nighttime training as well. So give plenty of access to liquids. It doesn't have to be water. It can be their favorite drinks, juice, seltzer water, slushies, ice cream, applesauce, popsicles, any way to get liquid in them, watermelon, whatever it is that they like. You want to give them plenty of liquids, because the more liquid that they take in, the more opportunities they're going to have to pee. You want to reinforce that keeping their underwear dry is a good thing. So you want to do what I call dry pants checks. And that's just a quick reminder or quick check in. Hey, do you have dry pants? And they may not respond, or they may look at you like, what are you saying? So what you're going to do is you're going to take their hand, have them feel the front of their underwear. Pants is what I mean when pants and underwear are used interchangeably. If you're going to know if they're wet or dry, if they're dry, you want to make a big deal out of it. Wow, look at that. You have dry pants. That's so awesome. And give them a smaller, separate reward that's not the same reward as the peeing in the potty reward. So, bubbles, a piece of candy, a sticker, something that's quick and easy and goes away. You can do a high five. You can do a quick spin with the child, or if they like, tickles or pressure, do any of those little rewards just to reinforce that dry pants, it's a good thing. You want to take them to the bathroom 1 to 2 times per hour, which obviously in a typical day, that's tough. But if you are, at home with the child after school or on the weekends, you want to take them 1 to 2 times per hour, depending on how much liquid they take in. Before you take them to the bathroom, it's very helpful to give them a transition warning. Okay, in 2 minutes, we're going to go to the potty. Or when the song is over, we're going to go to the potty. And, make sure that you follow through with that. If they're in the middle of something, if they're playing with something that they really enjoy, it's totally fine for them to bring it to the potty with them. And, make sure that once you tell them, yes, it's time to go sit on the potty, that you follow through with that and have them go to the potty. If they run from the room screaming, or if they flop to the ground, you still want to follow through with having them go to the potty. It may not be a successful visit, but at least they're learning that yes, they have to go to the potty when you tell them it's time, or when the timer goes off. And some kids really like that routine. Oh, the timer goes off. Let's go sit on the potty. So, whatever works for your child. Some kids hate the timer, so figure out some other way to do it if they do. And then when you go towards the bathroom, you can start working on, initiations, pairing the words or the sign or the picture or the button on the device, however they communicate, with what you're doing. So hopefully it's a potty sign or picture or button. I really like it to say potty if you do use a device, because that's pretty universal. Or even pee in the potty. is very specific. Bathroom, there's too many things to do in the bathroom, so they may not, you really want it to be behavior specific. So ideally pee on the potty or potty. When you get into the bathroom, you want to encourage independence and make it as easy for the child to do as much as he can on his own. So if you're using the regular toilet, make sure you have a seat that fits comfortably on top of the toilet with a step so the child can easily get up and down on their own. Obviously, if the training potty, they can do that. They can usually do that pretty easily. Even the kids who are, um, not even walking yet because they have um, whatever, for whatever reason. I'm not talking about like 18 months old or, a baby. Kids that just have a difficult time walking and may scoot across the floor. You can still set up the bathroom so that they can do as much as they can to get themselves up to the potty and get situated on the potty. There's all kinds of help that you can, put, like grab bars and steps and um, platforms to help them be more independent in using the potty. Get them settled on the potty, make sure they have their toys, and get them to sit for 10 minutes. Have the reward right there, ready and waiting for them, and remind them if the pee goes in the potty, then you can pick a prize from your box, or you can go on your swing, or you can do whatever it is that they would climb a mountain to get. I mean, that is what a typical day in regular potty training looks like. So, any questions?
I
Couple more
think that
things, actually.
there's for my daughter, so I have a daughter with GAMP deficiency, and untreated, it's very similar to CTD, and she was about to have her fifth birthday. She was nonverbal, probably intellectually around like a 1.5, 2 year old. And we decided to do it simultaneously with her sister, who
Hmm.
is not impacted by GAMT, and which was, I know, like a huge help for her to have that role model. But I remember feeling like first phase for her was to build awareness of pee coming out of the body, even.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I remember we did the potty seats in the house, especially because there was the two girls and we could do the joint, sit on the potty. We gave a ton of the liquids, like all your favorite drinks. It is Sprite Day and Juice Box Day and all
Hmm.
that. So it felt really
Hmm.
positive. We had a lot of activities around. But then I remember like even when she missed the toilet and we did no clothes, which I whatever. But but I so
That's fine.
I knew when it happened. So I like we made a big deal of you're peeing, like it's good. And like she's like, I'm what? And like I was just like trying to build that like connection with, your body's doing this. and
Hmm.
and and then eventually like we had the moments where it went into the toilet, or you're peeing and we're relocating her to the toilet and trying to get a drip in there. How do you play up the sensation? Is that like a legit
Oh
concept?
yeah. Yeah. That the hardest part is the child learning how to make themselves go pee when they're sitting on the potty.
Mhm.
They know how to pee, they know how to hold it, but it's releasing the pee once they're sitting on the potty that takes the longest. So the more opportunities you give them to sit, the more liquid they take in, the more opportunities they have to recognize what's happening. And yes, in the beginning, many kids don't realize that they're peeing, especially if they're into to playing with something. So you want to use your discretion on that. Like if your child, if they really love this book and they keep pressing the button on the book over and over and over again, and they're so into it that they don't notice anything around the world that's happening around them, then that's probably not the best book for them to have while they're sitting on the potty. So you want to give them something to entertain themselves, but not be totally engrossed in. And in the beginning, many kids don't notice, and that's okay. You just have to keep giving them the opportunities because they will eventually notice. Even when I worked with kids who only pee, and I'm doing the intensive training where I'm with them, 7 hours a day, and they only pee one, two, or three times during that time period because they're excellent holders. They still, it can still take a few days of that for them to really understand, oh, right, there's pee coming out. And I don't really like to look at it typically as days. I like to look at it as opportunities. So it roughly takes, I would say, at least, depending on the child, but averaged 10 opportunities before a child is really like, oh, right, I'm going pee. And then once they understand they get the reward for going pee, that's when you start to see when the child will sit and pee on purpose, or the child will start initiating and letting you know that they need to go pee because they've learned pee in the potty gets them what they want. And so that's when it clicks. And with every kid that I've ever worked with, I've always seen it click, and it's like a light switch turns. And you'll see it too. You'll see it. They'll automatically be like, pee, and they're going to look at their reward, or pee, and they're going to give you their box to open it. P, they're going to give you their iPad, or it's going to be very obvious. But getting them, one, to recognize that they're going, and then two, to figure out how to make themselves go pee when they're on the potty. Those are the two hardest parts. But once you get there, then it should be smooth sailing after that. And the more opportunities they have to go, the more quickly they'll learn. Now, if your child does have an accident, and we didn't talk about the dry pants, like obviously, if they're dry, you're going to give them a reward. If they're wet, you want to make it a natural consequence. They need to stop what they're doing, stop playing, pull their pants down, go put them in the laundry basket, go get dry ones out of the drawer, put the dry ones on, and then they can go back to playing. So you just want to make it a chore. You don't want to make it fun for them. If your child loves to clean up, then don't have them help clean up the mess. But if, they hate it, then that would be a good thing to let them help with, is cleaning up the mess, because that will just naturally deter accidents in the future. But it's part of the learning process too. Like, they have to pee in their underwear to learn what it feels like that they get wet and that it's uncomfortable, and that's okay. Even after they're trained, or in the midst of training, they have to occasionally have accidents so that they know, oh, right, that feels gross, I don't want to do that again, and I don't get a toy or my prize. So it's important that you do give them the responsibility after an accident. Any other questions on regular daytime training?
Does any of your advice change for adults with disabilities who are not yet potty trained and trying to take this on?
Yeah, typically with older kids and adults, I recommend the intensive potty training process, because they've already spent years doing all the regular things that you're supposed to do. And if they haven't gotten it yet, it's because it just hasn't been intense enough.
So you're saying like the committed, like you are taking a week off of work and
you're taking, or yeah, you're taking a week off work, you're getting all the help you possibly can, and you're taking shifts, and all you're doing is potty training. And I didn't send you my handout, did you? Or did I?
not to me,
I
no.
apologize for that. I will send that to you, and you can disseminate it to those who are um, part of the group.
Okay.
It does have the intensive potty training at the very end of that handout, and I probably won't have time to go through it. So anyone who wants to do it on their own, if you're brave enough that you can reach out with questions. But I don't recommend that parents do it on their own. That's what I'm here for, is to do it, because I can spend 7 hours in the bathroom with a kid. Most parents can't. They an hour, maybe 2 hours, and they're like, okay, I got to get out of here. Because this is what I do, and that's why it's not difficult for me, but for most people it is, because it's exhausting, and the power struggle, and there's just a lot that goes
Yeah,
into it.
the
So
relationship, like,
yeah,
yeah,
that
yeah.
affects it, yeah, greatly. I remember my second child, I sat down to do, she's very difficult. I sat down to do potty training with her. Again, I'd been doing it for 10 years at that point already. And about half an hour in, I was like, okay, we're not doing this. Because it just, I thought smooth sailing. I've been doing this forever. I've been doing this with nonverbal, low functioning kids. And this is a typically developing, stubborn kid. And she wouldn't let me do it. So I get it from a parent's perspective, how difficult it can be too. Um, so let's move on to self initiations. Once your child is consistently using the potty, having very infrequent accidents, you can start working on self initiations if they don't come on their own. For most kids, with delays, they need this help too. Many times kids will be trip trained, meaning that when you take them to the potty, they pee, and that's it. But you always have to take them. They don't ever initiate or go on their own. So this is what you can work on if if your child is at that point, or when your child gets to that point. Again, you're going to have them wear underwear at all times. You're going to take them to the potty at natural times, when they wake up, before you leave for school, before they leave from home, or from school for home, before bed, like natural times that you would go. All other times should be self initiated. And you're going to teach initiations by continuing with the dry pants checks. Do you have dry pants? Okay, great. You can reward for dry pants if necessary. And then you're not going to ask them if they need to go. You don't ever want to ask them if they need to go potty, because they're always going to say no, most likely, unless you have a super agreeable child who likes to say yes. But most kids will say nope. So, in order to encourage the initiations, you're not going to ask, you're going to remind them. Say potty if you need to pee, or touch the potty picture if you need to pee, or tell me if you need to pee, however it is that your child communicates with you. And then you're going to remind them, when you pee in the potty, you can have your reward. So you've got three key phrases. Do you have dry pants? Or keep your pants dry. Say potty if you need to pee. When you pee in the potty, you can get your reward. And then another way that you can encourage the self initiations without having to say anything, you keep the reward within view at all times. And that's why I like that clear box with the lid that latches on. I've had parents who actually put a padlock on it. They make clear boxes with the built-in locks. Like if your child is a Houdini, then it's okay to really lock it up. Always put a passcode on the iPad if that's the reward. But just make sure that they can access it. They just can't do anything with it, because allowing them to access it can they can use that, they can bring that to you as a way of saying that they need to go to the potty. Many nonverbal kids, I've worked with many nonverbal kids, and we get creative when it comes to ways of initiating. Bringing the reward to you is an easy one, especially if they do that sort of thing already, or bringing you to the reward. I had one little boy who would go and knock on the bathroom door. That was his way of saying he needed to go potty. I've had pictures of potties posted around the house, and anytime the child goes and touches that picture of the potty, okay, take him to the bathroom. That's their way of saying they need to go. We've used the talking buttons, that and record it to say pee in the potty, and you can put that right outside the bathroom. And if you hear that, pee in the potty button go off, then that's your child telling you that they need to go pee in the potty. So get creative. It doesn't have to be your typical sign or PECs or device use or word. They can. I had one little boy who said, "Gotta go, gotta go." That was his way of saying he needed to go pee. So again, it doesn't have to be your typical "I need to go potty." It can be whatever phrase that your child has paired with it and prefers to use. Okay, if bowel training doesn't come with urine training. So first of all, in regards to the question that was asked, low tone, in my experience, doesn't affect the ability to be bowel trained. It doesn't usually affect the bowels. Um, there's Now, if your child has constipation, chronic constipation, or chronic diarrhea, those are things that can make it very difficult for the child to bowel train. And so I really encourage you to work with a medical professional to, one, determine what the issue or cause is of either the constipation or the diarrhea, and then remedy that issue. Yes, there are some people who just have constipation and there isn't a clear reason why. That's just how their body is made. But many times there is a medical reason for the chronic constipation or diarrhea. It can be a food allergy not an allergy, a food intolerance or sensitivity, something that's in their diet that just doesn't agree with them and causes one or the other. Irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's disease, celiac disease. You want to rule all those things out if your child has either the constipation or the diarrhea. And there's a difference between withholding and constipation. The kids who are withholding are choosing to not go for whatever reason. And many kids choose not to poop. They choose to hold it. They choose not to go. And there's not always a clear reason why. And there doesn't always have to be a clear reason why. Unfortunately, that makes our job a little bit more difficult. But withholding can cause constipation. So if your child is clearly withholding and their constipation is a result of withholding, then that can be tackled behaviorally. We can do a bowel training with them. But if there's a medical reason, then you want to rule any issues causing that before trying to bowel train. I hope that answers the question. If not, let me know if you had any other part of that needed to be answered. If there are no medical concerns and your child poops regularly and normally, then you can do bowel training if it doesn't come with the urine training. It's important to determine when your child poops. You want to be able to predict their bowel movements. This is important in the training part. So if you don't have any idea when they go, you can track it. And I have a tracking chart that I can send to anyone who needs it. I can go ahead and send it to you, Heidi, and you can pass that along for anyone who asks. You want to determine the pattern. Is it related to a time, a place? Is it always when mom or dad is home? Is it always after or before an activity? Is it related to any food or drink? Figure out what the triggers are. Most people go around the same time every day. That's pretty typical. If your child is one of those, then that's great. That will help you tremendously in bowel training. But if not, then you want to track and figure out what the pattern is. Or you can determine, the tracking can also help you determine if there is a trigger. So every time he goes on the trampoline, 5 minutes later, he poops. Or he always goes in his closet to poop. So you want to watch for those signs, and then you want to get him or those triggers. And then so that will help you determine when to do the bowel training. So let's just use the example of after dinner, your child always goes to the closet and and poops. So, one, it's totally fine to put the potty in the closet or behind the chair or behind the curtains. Like put it in their comfort zone. If they always go in their bedroom or in your bedroom, put the potty in there. It's okay to give them privacy. And that could be all it takes. They just don't want to poop in front of everybody, or they don't want to poop while you're sitting there staring at them and while they're sitting on the potty. So it's okay to give them privacy. In order to do bowel training, you want to get the child, this is the key, you want to get the child on the potty before the urge comes. So let's say your child poops every single day after dinner. So you have dinner, as soon as dinner's over, just add it into the routine. Your child goes to the potty, sits on the potty until he goes. This can take 5 minutes or this can take 5 hours. It or anywhere in between. Like it's not an exact science, and you could get your child on the potty and he could be like, nope, I'm not going to poop. And so you have him sit for half an hour. Nope, not going to poop. He gets up and he immediately poops in his pants. Like this is such a common issue. So you ideally you know that he needs to poop. He poops at this time every single day. So you want to keep him on the potty or at least in the bathroom near the potty. So if you see that it starts to come out, you can get him on the potty as soon as possible. But ideally, you have him on the potty before the urge comes. And again, you've got the rewards ready and waiting for them. You can have a separate reward for pooping that's different from peeing, or you can give him double of the reward for pooping because it happens less frequently. But as soon as the poop goes in the potty, you want to give them the reward. And that, for most of us, we go to the bathroom, we wipe, we flush, we wash hands, we dry hands, we do all the steps, turn off the light. For this, soon as the pee comes out, they get the reward. They don't have to do any of the other steps. You can do those steps after they're done with the reward. Um, and so bowel training, it's a pretty straightforward process. It sounds easy on paper, but the hardest part is sticking to it. Once you get started, once you know that you're in there, you got to stick it out until they go. Um, there are some tricks that I do have if anyone wants to reach out on that. I also do bowel training. Well, I'll come into the home and just sit with the kid in the bathroom until they poop. So I'm available for that as well. Um, but with bowel training, it usually takes 2 or 3 times of the child going in the potty, followed by a reward for them to be doing it consistently after that. And again, if you can build it into their routine, then that will also make it easier on everyone because you'll know, okay, that poop's out of the way. I'm not going to have to worry about him pooping when we're, you know, out of the house or he's at school, which most kids don't. Especially once they're pee trained, they don't just poop in random places. They'll wait until they get to their comfort zone, which is usually at home in a spot or just, at home in general to go. Um, this reminds me, one more thing about rewards. You want to give your child enough of the item that they feel rewarded but not satiated. So what that means is, say your child um, loves playing on the iPad and would play on the iPad nonstop for 45 minutes without looking away. You don't want to give them the iPad for 45 minutes as a reward. You want to cut that time so that, maybe after half an hour, you turn it off. You want to leave him wanting more. So, same thing with if you're using frosting or ice cream, you can give them a spoonful of it, not an entire bowl of it, not a whole bag of chips, a couple of chips. So, you give them enough to feel rewarded, but not satiated. If they're satiated, they're not going to use the potty again because they've had enough chips. So, you want to make sure it stays motivating in that way. I see another question. Heidi, can you read that?
Yeah, what's your advice when there are physical impacts? Oh, sorry, that's the same question.
Okay.
Would you start bowel training immediately after the pee training was successful, or how do you time those two?
Sure. Yeah, that's fine. again, if you know when your child goes, then it's fine to do it all at once. You can do it during the P training. And we hope that it happens during the P training. It just many times it doesn't. And a lot of it has it's a weird phenomenon. Kids just don't want to poop in the potty. And they all have their reasons. And many of them are just not going to do it. But once they do it, then it's two or three more times after that, then they'll be doing it consistently after that. It's just waiting them out because bowel training is a waiting game. You just have to wait for them to finally go. You can, as a last resort, use a liquid glycerin suppository to get them to go, to allow them to technically be successful without having to do a whole lot. Um, it's you know it's not the easiest thing to administer to kids, but some kids don't mind it at all. It just depends on your kid. But what it does is it signals the brain and the body that it needs to poop. And it gives them an uncontrollable, well, not uncontrollable, it gives them a significant urge. Some kids can still hold it in after that, but most kids can't. And so they feel it, you sit them on the potty, and then that you've got one under your belt. You just got to get them to do it two more times after that, and they'll be fine with it. So I like to have the kids try um, without any of that extra help, is what I call the glycerin, first to see if they'll do it. But if you've tried and tried and tried and they just won't do it, it's okay. The doctors that know recommend the liquid glycerin suppository, and often they'll recommend it as a way to treat chronic constipation or bedwetting that can be connected with constipation. So it's perfectly safe. It's something to keep in the back of your head just in case.
So I have a question.
Yeah,
I'm imagining the situation where, you think you know when they're gonna poop and you're like, we're gonna do this and we're gonna stay in here for half an hour. And the child is like, no, I don't want to be in this bathroom. I don't want to sit. I don't want to whatever. Like, is there something you can do to kind of bridge the you pooped? Like, do you take the poop and take them and go put it into the toilet out of the undies and then celebrate that we got it in the toilet, even if you didn't like, is there anything you can do when they're very resistant? Because it seems like that's a common.
I know. It's for some, I mean, I don't know how much kids take that part in. Like I've done that with some kids that they're like, oh, well, let's go put it in the potty. Like it's clear that they know that the poop goes in the potty. But many kids with delays, I don't know that they make that connection. There's nothing wrong with doing that. You certainly can. I just don't know how helpful it is. So if you have struggled with this, um, and then it is going to be the waiting game of, waiting them out. I do, if you can't be in the bathroom anymore and you know they need to poop and they need to go run around, leave their pants off. If they're the kind of child who won't poop outside of something, that's usually the issue. That's usually why kids don't want to poop in the potties, because they're so used to pooping in underwear or diaper or pull up that it's such a different feeling. It can happen with pee too. It's such a different feeling for them to be pooping outside of something that's against their skin, and they just don't like it. That's usually as simple a reason as it gets. And so again, that's why I said just showing them that they can do it and everything's fine and they get what they want, then that will get them more comfortable with it.
Okay.
How are we doing on time?
We're almost at the hour.
Okay.
Um,
Well,
yeah.
I have nighttime training to go over real quick, and that's the last part. Um, I do recommend that you do daytime and night, like do it all at once, but you don't have to. Number one, sleep is by far more important than anything in my book. So if your child, if you have your child wear underwear to bed and they're waking up every 15 minutes or every hour on the hour because of it, then it's okay to hold off on nighttime training. Or if they have a small bladder and there's no way they can hold it all night long, it's okay to hold off on nighttime training. And especially if your child still goes to bed with a bottle or a full cup of milk right at bedtime, you can't expect them to hold it all night long. So it's okay to hold off on nighttime training. It's not the end of the world if you don't do it all at once, but it is possible, because during daytime training, the child learns to keep their underwear dry. It usually carries over to nighttime training. And many kids, once they're past the age of 3, have the capability to hold the pee all night long. Many kids are already holding the pee all night long, but then peeing in their diaper when they wake up. So nighttime training is just one of those things you don't really know what's going to happen until you try it. So I recommend having them wear underwear. If that scares you to death, have underwear and put a pull up over it. But if you do that and they feel the snugness of the pull up or the familiarity of the pull up, then you don't want to do that. You want to get rid of the pull ups, but you can use a reusable nighttime diaper. And that has the cloth on the inside and the waterproof coating on the outside, so they can still feel that they're wet, but it gives you peace of mind, and no, and allows you to not have to wash their entire bedding if they do have an accident. And they make really great nighttime pants now for that specific reason. So, um, in order to nighttime train, it's important that you limit their drinks in the evening. So their last drink is with dinner and then be done with drinks. If they need a sip of water when they're brushing their teeth or right when they go to bed, a sip is fine. Just don't give them an entire cup. You also want to make sure that they empty their bladder right before they get in bed. And some parents have found that it's helpful to get their child up midway through the night if they can't hold it all night long. Again, that's your call. If it's going to mess up their sleep, I wouldn't go near that. But if your child does what's called dream pee, and that you get them up, sit them on the potty, they pee, they go right back to sleep, then it's worth a shot if you feel like, you really do want to be done with pull-ups and diapers completely. But as I said, most kids by 3 have the physical capability of doing it. And you'll know if your child has that capacity, or if they seem to have a small bladder, or if there's bedwetting in the family history. Those can be indicators that they're not quite ready yet. You can also put a training potty, or if your child's bigger, you can do like a commode that they use in a hospital, or even a camping potty in their bedroom, so that they don't have to leave their bedroom. Or some kids I know can't leave their bedroom because they're, for safety reasons, need to have the lock on the door. If that's the case, it's okay to put a potty in their bedroom if there's not a bathroom connected to it. If they have to go to a bedroom, I'm sorry, a bathroom that's across from their bedroom, then maybe give them a special light, or leave, a flashlight or a lantern to get them to the bathroom, or leave the light on in the hallway. Figure out what they're willing to do when it comes to using the potty, and what you can trust them to do. That's really dependent upon the child. But most kids who you see that aren't nighttime trained at 6 and 7, they're still wearing a diaper or a pull up. They're doing it because it's just a habit. They've always worn those to bed. They've always peed in them, either throughout the night or when they wake up in the morning. So you don't really know until you take them away and give them underwear and see what happens. So again, it's one of those things that you want to do once you're ready to commit to, once you know that sleep isn't going to be affected. Any other questions?
Um, how do you handle the go to school? Like if you aren't able to have a week off of work and and say you start this on Friday afternoon and it's Monday morning now, like how do you send them to school and what do you tell the teachers and
Yeah, definitely. So the paperwork that I'm going to send to you to give out, they can use these as instructions for the teachers. So I would talk to the teachers beforehand. If the teacher, or, if there's a specific parapro or aide that works with the child, make sure that they have instructions. And they can do the same thing. They can, you know, have the child wear underwear to school, send in rewards for both dry pants and peeing in the potty, have the child taken to the potty 1 to 2 times every hour, and do the dry pants checks, like everything that I just discussed that you'll be doing at home. You want it to be carried over at school, and then whoever goes takes them to therapy, do the same thing. Do keep on with the schedule, make sure that everybody has these instructions, everybody's doing the same thing. Consistency is the key. But you want to make sure the school is on board beforehand. If school says, oh no, they have to wear a pull-up at school, then you probably want to hold off, or you want to get them trained before you send them back to school. And it's possible with the intensive training. They can. It's usually, so the average when I work with them, it's about 4 days, but it can take longer. It can be fewer. But at the end of that intensive training, they're ready to wear underwear, get back into their normal routine, and they'll continue to be successfully trained. So, those are really the options. If the school says, no, he can't come until he's in underwear until he's trained. And I've seen that a lot. And it's tricky because unfortunately, maybe you wait till the summer where you don't have to deal with school. And, if they're going to be not on board, but it's really important that everybody is on board. Make sure grandma and grandpa are too, and they don't sneak him some candy that he's supposed to be getting when he goes pee in the potty. I saw another question pop up.
yeah, where are you located and are you taking new clients?
I am located in Connecticut, and I believe you all are in Texas.
We are spread out all over.
Okay. Okay. I travel all over the country. Um, for local clients, I have a little bit more availability. Like probably April's my first availability, and then I think I have some availability for travel in May.
Mhm.
So I book about 3 to 5 months in advance right now. Um, yeah, but I travel all over, and the way that it works is that you just contact me, let me know where you are, and we'll discuss the details for what that involves, and everything. But I take care of all the travel bookings and stuff. So I make it as easy on you as possible. And while I'm with your child, you don't have to be with me. You're welcome to go to work or work from home or go have a day for yourself. It's only when I leave for the day and come back in the morning that you'll kind of be on for the potty training part.
Yeah. Do you have any just last minute advice for anyone who has already tried this and maybe, their child now has a negative response to it and they've got to get them excited again because it was a struggle?
Yeah. So getting them involved in the rewards, the choosing of the rewards. So if your child loves to go to the store and pick out new stuff, then take them to the store and let them pick out everything that they want within reason. Now, if you get a box about the size of a shoebox, then they can pick out items that go in that box for their rewards. Get them involved in the reward process. Um, I mean, that's usually what's going to do it. If the child is heavily dependent upon the iPad and will do anything for the iPad, you could consider restricting access to the iPad for, a week or several weeks before you begin training so that it's even more enticing. I've had lots of parents do that, or any of the rewards, if they're already getting them, restrict the access before you start to make them more motivating. But making the bathroom a fun place. When I come and work with kids, I bring a bag of toys, and we'll paint, and we'll do we'll do arts and crafts, and we'll watch videos and movies, whatever they want to do. Make it a fun place, and put plenty of toys in the bathroom, or again, bring them out of the bathroom. Even the bigger kids, I've used the hospital commode in their playroom because they're happier there. Again, they don't have to be in the bathroom. That part can come. You just want to get them using the potty now or diapers, and it doesn't matter where they do that. They can transition once they're used to it. So I know it's daunting as a parent to do it, because I've done it myself as a parent. Um, but think about what makes your kid happy and what's going to motivate them, and that will make the process easier.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I don't see any other in the chat, and I don't have any others. So
Okay. Okay. All right. I will forward you that information now. So feel free to send it to the people who are here now, or are here, have been part of this group, just because I would rather not give it to people who haven't heard me, or I
yeah.
haven't spoken with.
Okay.
So yeah, I'd appreciate that. And then if you have anyone who missed it or questions, give them my contact info is on the sheet, but you can also pass along the information as well.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Ashley.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have a
Take
good
care.
day.
Thanks, everybody.